how we speak to our bodies is really how we're speaking to our heart, to our soul, to who we are underneath the body. And that body is really listening to us. And so it's feeling those emotions, and it's often those emotions show up when not kind to it. We need to treat it kind of like you would a child or a pet. Just give it love and comfort and be excited to have it and be in this form. And since we're not doing that, we can start experiencing pain and discomfort and all the different things that kind of your body's saying like, hey, you're not giving me the love. You're not giving me the nutrition. You're not giving me the exercise, the movement, just all of that appreciation. And that is where that consciousness comes in. And it's like, this is not in alignment with who you are as a soul.
Hey friends, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today I have on this show Ramah Leith, and she is a highest timeline activator, coach, and multidimensional healer. And her multifaceted approach to healing and coaching embodies blends of medical intuition, functional nutrition, lifestyle support, quantum healing, purpose alignment, and spiritual connection. Using her unique blueprint for unlocking and transmuting stagnant energy, she guides clients through a transformative experience that dissolves limitations and awakens and activates their divine potential and highest timeline for healing, joy, abundance, and prosperity. Legally blind and extremely sensitive since birth, Ramah overcame adversity to earn multiple degrees in the health field, building a successful career in academia and public health. And then when her health collapsed, she devoted herself to healing, mind, body, and spirit. And we are talking all about quantum healing and how your body is basically consciousness in physical form, like your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, all of these things that get stuck and embedded in your body affect your physical body, how that affects your physical body, and what we can do to kind of untie and untangle all these things and how this plays into our overall health. Let's dive in. All right, y'all. I'm here with Ramah, and I am excited to jump into this conversation with you today. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited. So we met through a summit that we'll talk about in a little bit that Ramah is leading, but I love the similarities that we have in the work that we do. We talk a lot about quantum healing and quantum health and all of these things, just kind of this the multidimensional layers of the healing process. And you talk about our body being consciousness in physical form, like we are walking around as like our consciousness. I would love for you to explain what you mean by that.
It's so interesting how so many of us, especially women, I feel like have really separated ourselves from our body. Like our body is something that we're angry with, or we feel ashamed of, or don't like, or look in the mirror and, or like, I wish you weren't as bulky here, or, whatever it might be. And really our body is our consciousness and form. So it's really how we speak to our bodies is really how we're speaking to our heart, to our soul, to who we are underneath the body. And that body is really listening to us. And so it's feeling those emotions, and often those emotions show up when we're, not kind to it. We need to treat it kind of like you would a child or a pet, just give it love and comfort and be excited to have it and, be in this form. And since we're not doing that, we can start experiencing, pain and discomfort and all the different things that kind of your body saying like, hey, you're not giving me the love. You're not giving me the nutrition. You're not giving me the exercise, the movement, just all of that appreciation. And that is where that consciousness comes in. And it's like, this is not in alignment with who you are as a soul in this physical form. And you have this physical form to get you through this life. And so that's really how our bodies need to be treated, like they are the divine essence that's holding this spirit, this soul into this physical form. And it really is a beautiful relationship that we have with that body.
Yeah. It's the vessel, right? It's the vessel for all of that. And that's, we get the one vessel, like we have to take care of it. And I would love for you to share, because I love to hear you explain that. And going on assumption here that you have a story around all this of your own, but the different kind of tools, modalities, and all that you've put together. I would love to hear your journey and how you've put all that together and why you do this work.
Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned, so like so many of us, I spend a lot of time not liking my body, comparing myself to other people. And with that, in addition to stress and life and maybe not eating as well as you should, or not exercising as much as you should, or, feeling unworthy, all those emotions that kind of pile up on top of everything, not good enough, all that. That is something that really can pull us out of our alignment, which means we are not really living our authentic life. We're not feeling in like our purpose is fully lived because we are out of our full expression. And I was doing that for many, 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 my whole life, I think. My whole life. And it just increased and got worse as I got older. And, all of those emotions that stick into your cells and stick into your tissues and all that you haven't been released. And so as I was, getting older and living a life that I didn't feel in complete alignment with, my body just started to break down. And I was in chronic pain from head to toe. Wasn't sleeping, wasn't able to eat really any food. I mean, everything I had issues digesting, and just was going through so much dis-ease at that time. And of course, seeing the medical professionals and, dealing with depression and anxiety and all the other emotions and feelings that go along with not feeling good about yourself and good about your life and your body and your purpose and relationships and all of that. And really coming to the understanding that so much of this is our body giving us those signs and signals like, hey, there's something else that we need to be doing. Like, we've been giving you messages for a really long time and you haven't been hearing us. And so now you're in pain. Now you can't sleep. Now you can't eat. I mean, that's your life, right? You need to be able to move. You need to be able to eat, all those important things. And when that stops happening, you really have to take a bit of a beat and say, hey, what's going on that's not working for me? What is all of this that's pulling me out of how I know I would like to live my life? And for me, it was really coming to that understanding that I needed to let go. I needed to let go of the mask. I mean, as part of that, because trying to be perfect, trying to be what I thought everyone wanted me to be, trying to be, that overachiever and people pleaser, all those things that was, while important to be feeling and doing my best, was more, I was doing it for other people's approval versus my own inner, inner blessings, inner hope, inner love, all those types of things that is really what should be driving us. And so it really took my whole body breaking down, not being able to get any support from the medical community, in our traditional medical community, that I really figured out I needed to do something different. And that's what really led me on my spiritual journey, led me on my healing journey, led me to open up to so many other different healing modalities that I wasn't even aware of. And so quit the job and then went on that healing journey. And that's kind of where it's gotten me today.
Love that. Yeah. I think so many women have been on a similar journey that you talked about, and just kind of being let down by the conventional medical community, but then also figuring out, I was just recording a masterclass workshop talking about this. It's always the thing behind the thing, right? It's like the energy behind the thing. And so it's one thing to, like you were saying, I'm doing all these things and I'm striving for my purpose and I'm doing all this, and you can feel like you're doing all the things, right? But the energy underneath it for you is like, oh, I needed the validation or whatever. So for you, what was in this, I'm sure it was a series of events. It wasn't this like switch that flipped, but for you, what was the process for you being able to like really get to the thing behind the thing, right? Like the energy that was driving those actions, because it wasn't necessarily actions, right? It's the energy behind those. So what was the thing that kind of helped you realize that, and how did you switch that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really even know where to begin. I mean, it really was like, I need to tell my body, I need to figure out a different way. And I went on that spiritual journey and I started listening to summits. Like we're going to talk about the one that I'm putting on that you're featured presenter on. I started reading all the books. I started listening to all the podcasts, everything you could think of, to try to figure out how I could heal my own body. And that's really where it came from. Like, I feel that it's an internal thing that we can do, and I believe we all can do it, and that I was ultimately able to do. But it was really kind of going, I'm giving my power away. Like, I'm giving my power away to everybody else, to the medical community. A diagnosis here, a diagnosis there. And once you get a diagnosis, you become the diagnosis. And
Mhm.
like, I don't want to become a diagnosis.
Yep.
I want to be able to heal myself, because I know that we can instinctively do that. Like, we can bring ourselves into that alignment that we need to be in to have this healthy body and healthy mind and spirit and so forth. And so I went down that road of researching, learning, listening, being a part of, doing groups, whatever you could imagine. And then really diving into meditation and sitting with feet on the earth and sending love to every single cell in my body, every organ, every tissue, just sitting there, just sending it love all day long. And that really opened me up to be able to start releasing some of that tension. And then, also change my diet, which was a huge thing. I mean, that was such a huge thing. I didn't even realize how much inflammation that was causing. And I didn't have a bad diet, but it was more, even the occasional gluten was causing the inflammation, the occasional grains, things like that, sugars and stuff. And so I really had to, and dairy, there were quite a few things that were triggers for me. So I had to just kind of back off of some of that and start doing more of a natural kind of cleanse to get my body back into a good state of being. And so all of that then eventually opened me up to being able to have experiences that I didn't think were even possible. So again, with letting go, I think it was only like a couple weeks into all of this, with the change in the diet and the meditating, that I started to feel better. Like, the pain in my body subsided so much, in the joints and all throughout my body. It subsided so much. It kind of felt like a miracle, because, I was like, wow, this is happening faster than I could have even imagined by just making some of these lifestyle changes. And so that was really remarkable. And then I went on a journey of meeting a medical intuitive and starting learning more about quantum healing and medical intuition, and then really tied that into my experiences, and then went on to get trained to be a medical intuitive, and then trained to be a functional nutrition coach. And, so I just kind of brought all of those things that was my experience that was difficult into the modalities that I now do in my coaching and in my practice. So
Yeah, that's the
full
best way to
circle.
do it. Yeah, exactly. I was just about
Yeah.
to say that. That's the best way to do it. I mean, you learn through experience and then you share it with everybody. I mean, that's the best way. It's like, hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire. And you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show. I am my own walking testimonial. Like, I've used all these things and I know they work and I trusted it. Yeah, no, that's amazing. You mentioned a second ago that you had discovered some healing modalities that you had, never heard of and never experienced. Which ones did you feel like were some of the like out of the box, or maybe at the time seemed out of the box, that were the most helpful or supportive for you?
So I knew nothing about any of these other healing modalities. So my background's public health. So I taught college health, I taught public health, I taught, all of that. I worked on multi-million-dollar grants for public health. So I was very science minded, like very science minded. And so to open myself up to the energy healing, to the quantum healing, to any of these types of modalities where you're really looking at the whole person and you're moving energy versus like just taking a drug or a medicine, something like that to create the change, but really focusing on your body and focusing on the energy and focusing on the vibrations and your frequency and how you look at the world. That was also a big part too. So just that consciousness raising actions of pulling myself away from the news, pulling all of the things that were really kind of bringing your energy down and bringing you into a state of like anger and frustration and fear, because those energies really make it hard to heal when you're stuck in that frequency. And so really the frequency medicine, the energy healing, all of that I found to be the most beneficial. And then the quantum, which is, we're all connected in the quantum. Quantum is, everything. And being able to see that we can go and work on like ancestral lineages. We can work on, past lives. We can work on different things that's maybe been holding us into a more restricted life, and being able to release those types of things, inner child, all that kind of work as well has been really freeing to be able to allow you to say like, this is something I don't have to hold on to any longer. My ancestral lineage, what they went through, those emotions that are tied in my tissues, I'm here now to be the one to release those.
Yeah, those are so powerful. Those practices are so powerful. And it is, especially when you come from that like sciencey analytical mind, it is a different, you kind of have to put on a different lens, like to see the world through, right? And not have the same, like, I have to see it to believe it kind of thing, or it doesn't, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist, or it's not real, or have like these very linear or predictable outcomes. And so for you, I'd love to hear your experience with that, just coming from that more sciencey background that you came from. And maybe it wasn't an issue for you. I just know that a lot of times I get, very analytical minded clients that it's hard because we know, I mean, me and you, and I think the women listening, we know that the healing process is not linear, right? It's like up and down and spiral and circle and backwards and all the things. But when you're in it, that's so frustrating. And especially when you're analytical mind, it's like, no, I did this, so I should get this. Like, it's like you put in the input and you get the output or whatever, right? It should be clear cut, and it's not. So for you and your journey, I guess, what was your experience with that? And did you have have to overcome kind of that analytical mindset where it's like X equals Y kind of thing?
I mean, I would say the first thing was the thought that I could quit my job. Like that by itself was like the biggest obstacle,
Yeah.
that I can put myself first and I can quit my job and it's going to be okay. And we're going to be fine and we're going to be able to deal with it. But my health was the most important thing. And I think that's where a lot of people are, is they're stuck in like a job they hate. They're not feeling fulfilled. They're feeling angry and anxious and all those emotions every time they're going to work because they're not in alignment with their purpose. They're working for someone else. They're not filling their own cup with what they want to do. So that to me was one of the biggest things, is like, you can quit your job and the world will not fall apart. You will be able to like give yourself the love and the time you need to heal. So I think that's really important. And then with the whole science, I was just so disillusioned by the programming I had received, that you have to do it this way and you have to take this medication, and then experiencing that for myself. And I know of many other medical doctors who do this kind of work now too, because they went through their healing journey, and some of them are on the summit that we're on. They went through their healing journey and they were like, what I would prescribe myself was not working for me. Like there's got to be another way. And then they found, energy healing, quantum healing, the nutrition, all those types of things. And so I think that's part of it, is just kind of that disillusion of what we've been taught is the only way, and going, there has to be a better way than this. And then the spirituality, I had always hoped there was more to life and more to our existence and more to, our experience here on Earth, but I didn't really know much about it. And I believe there were angels and guides, but I just thought they were for other people. Like they weren't hanging out with me. So when that opened up to me as well, that was really profound that we have all of this support around us that we're not even aware of. And when we can tune into that frequency, when we can, have that relationship with our guides and angels, how beautiful that experience can be. So all of that seemed kind of crazy to me before. And then when I just let go of all those preconceived notions about the world, I let everything in. And then it was really, you have to use your discernment, of course, but it was like, okay, now I'm going to look at this. And how does this feel in my body to think about that? Like, is my body saying this is good? This is bad, and really looking at all of the options versus that really narrow window of just science, just medical model, all of that. But like, there is so much more open and, and herbs and, all the things that we've been using for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years for health that we'd been told you're not supposed to use or they're ineffective or, and now we're kind of getting back to seeing how that has such an important part in our bodies and in our healing as well. Just kind of going back to the old school ways of looking at some of these things and the energy.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the ancient wisdoms. I mean, they've been around for hundreds of years for a reason, right? I mean, that's always the way I look at it. And yeah, I mean, I love everything you said. I feel like resonates so much because, and that's how I am too. It's like it's really just broadening your perspective, right? And opening your mind that it doesn't have to be this I don't want to say small minded, but and I guess in a way, right? There's just so much more out there, right? If we broaden our perspective and open our mind to things that might seem far fetched or out there or not, scientifically proven or whatever, have things to back it up. I think there's just so much available to us when we open our perspective, open our mind like that.
And you know what I think is so interesting is that if they were to do, and a lot of people, there are some people doing the science now. But if they were to do more science on energy healing, on quantum healing, on, Reiki healing, all those types of things, there would be more science.
100%.
It's just you don't make money off of it for a, drug company
Exactly.
or, things like that, who are the ones that fund those kinds of research. So it's like we need more of that if people are wanting to have that scientific evidence, that we need more of those types of studies done. And the only reason they're not there is because of that. It's not where the money is.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think that's important for people to say too, because I get that.
Yeah.
Well, there isn't any research showing that works. And there actually is research that shows that works. It's just not as mainstream as you would see for some of the medical stuff. So you really have to kind of look for it. But I think that's where I would even lead people that are just wanting the science to look at all this other stuff that's out there. There actually is some research and it's really good research, but it's just not as mainstream as what you're going to find otherwise.
Right. For sure. For sure. There's a book, I think I might have mentioned this on the show before, but there's a book called Why Woo Woo Works. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's so good. And for that reason, and I always recommend that to my, my skeptics out there, because he goes into a lot of these, and yeah, I mean, a lot of them are smaller studies. And like you said, I mean, in the capitalistic world we live in, it's not the most profitable thing to study Reiki and, EFT tapping and stuff, but there are studies, like there actually do exist. So anyway, for those listening, Why Woo Woo Works is a really good book to check out if you want the,
that sounds good. I'm going to have to look at that. I've read so many books and I haven't read that one. So
yeah.
That's going to be my next one.
It's a good one. The other thing you talked about, you mentioned earlier, you were talking about specific emotions, and specifically with you and these things that had been stuck or unreleased. Can you talk a little bit about that and how these stuck emotions, these stored emotions and beliefs and all these things, how these actually do affect our health and can lead to physical symptoms?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one that, and again, it's no fault of anyone's. I feel like we've really been programmed to have this be kind of our default lifestyle, is really feeling like everything's happening to us. Like we have no control. Everything's happening to us. And that leads to like a victim mentality. So I've done everything they've told me to do and it doesn't work for me because things just don't work for me. Or like I can't have the money or what I want because like the universe is like active working against me, or, whatever it might be. I can't have the health that I want to have because I have all these illnesses that my doctors told me. And so now my I am that illness. So many things that we have kind of let everyone project onto us versus having our own authority of who I am, what I can do, what I will do, all my purpose, all of those types of things. And I think that's one of the biggest underlying is that we've given away our power, and we're letting everybody kind of dictate who we are and what we are. And with that, the emotions that are tied to that are so often grief and shame and self-doubt and worry and anxiety and frustration and anger and rage, all of those emotions, because we've kind of let go of who we really are. Like we have let the rest of the world tell us who we are. And that kind of brings that up, those emotions. And those emotions are really, you can't have a positive outcome from a negative mindset. So that's kind of the thing, is like if you're wanting something positive happen, but all you're thinking about is all the negative things that are going to happen, you really can't change your life without changing your perspective. And so that's really the biggest part. So when you can start letting go of that anger or that frustration, that shame, whatever's been, kind of put on you, or you feel like that's how you have to, not how you have to live your life, but how your life is kind of unfolded. And you can say like, hey, from here on, I can start anew. I can look at a new direction. I can have a new perspective. And it's not just like thinking optimally, being optimistic and, all that kind of stuff. It's not just like doing that all the time, but it's really allowing yourself to say, I was doing the best I could at the time with information I knew. Everybody around me was doing the best they could. So like giving a lot of grace to yourself and to others is really important. And then into your family, because I know a lot of us, it's like our family is kind of where we started in this path of, like if they would have done this for me, or if I wouldn't have gone through this, that we feel we would turn out better. But then also when you ask someone, how do you like yourself? Like, how would you be different? Most of the time they say like, yeah, I don't think I would change who I am. And so then you have to say like, your experiences led you to who you are now. And now you've got all of that information to be able to create something even better in your future. So it's really just important to see that those are emotions that bring us down in our frequency and don't allow us to be our true, authentic self.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. How do you deal with, because I think sometimes you kind of briefly spoke to this a second ago about, not just being optimistic about it. I think one thing that, I'm trying to say this diplomatically, a lot of spaces, it's a lot of like, just think positive, and, it's a lot of spiritual bypassing and just be happy. Like people think it's just as simple as like, just be happy, just don't worry, just don't stress, which is like the worst possible advice you can give someone who's in the middle of feeling all of those emotions. So what are your strategies that you help the people you work with to avoid this kind of spiritual bypassing or like just think positive thing, and like really, for lack of a better word, like handle and work with these emotions?
Mhm. I mean, first of all, you have to sit with them. Like you have to feel them. You have to give yourself grace with them. You have to, have that experience and then be able to let that move through your body with that forgiveness. And that forgiveness, like I said, for the others and yourself. If you can't get to that forgiveness, you're going to have a really hard time with everything else, because you're still going to keep coming back to those emotions. And I've had clients where they didn't forgive themselves for not being there with their loved one as they were dying because they had something else going on and things like that, where our loved one is not holding that against us, right? That is not something that's happening. They're on the other side. They still love you. Everything's good. But that shame and that guilt that they just kept going back to, that was something that kept holding them in that frequency where they weren't even able to have that experience with the loved one on the other side, because they were in such a darker place holding on to that. And it was like, give yourself grace and forgive yourself, because at the time you were doing the best you could. You didn't know that was going to happen, and they're not holding it against you. those emotions that you're having is what's causing you to have the physical pain. It's causing you to have those experiences. And once you can just say like, hey, that was my experience and I did feel that. And I feel, that was something I needed to go through in my process and an experience in my life, and then be able to just forgive yourself. That is such a big thing to do. And I feel like so many of us just hold on to that shame and that guilt and, all the little things that we don't need to hold on to because they are not helping us. And another thing is like anger. So a lot of, people might experience anger towards someone who did something to them. And that's another thing that really gets stuck in our tissues. So like, we have anger in moving forward in our life, anger in the past, and it shows up in different parts of our bodies as well when we are holding on to these harder emotions. And again, that forgiving that other person. I know people have done terrible things to us, and I have so much empathy for that because I know how hard that is. But that person is now doing their life. They're doing their life. They're not thinking about you. And you're holding on to this anger that you've had for years that's making you sick, like making you physically sick, having all of the inflammation, all of the, all the stuff I had because I had a lot of anger. Apparently I didn't know I did, but like holding on to all of that, which causes all that inflammation and dis-ease in your body. And they don't even know, they don't care. It's not affecting them. So it's really like, how do you want your life to be? And if you can let go of that anger, you're the one that benefits from it. Like you're the one that gets the good outcome from that. They're not feeling it. You're giving that energy back to yourself and pulling all that energy that other people have taken from you back into your vessel so you can heal and you can really feel in your best aligned, healthy, happy, whole self.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about taking your power back and not giving your power away. I mean, that's essentially what a lot of those, harder emotions, like you said, because we know they're not good nor bad, right? But a lot of those harder emotions, it's like just taking our power away or taking our power back from whatever we were having attached to those emotions too, right? And I think that's a huge part of the healing equation. Based on what we've talked about so far, are there any modalities or strategies or techniques, I guess, that you want to share with people, like for the women listening who are wanting to kind of dive more into this work and really like deepen their journey? What would you recommend, like getting started? Strategies, modalities, like what's the best way to start working on this more quantum side of the healing?
I'd say the first thing and the thing that worked quickest for me was gratitude. Like when you have a grateful mind, when you're in gratitude and you can see all the beautiful things around you and the experiences, and even if you're like listening to right now and you're like, I have nothing to be grateful for, I promise you have one thing. You can find one thing and just kind of build on that from, every day, build on that more and more because you will start to see more things to be grateful for. And that really does change your perspective and it can change your life. And that brings in more of that healing as well. So a gratitude practice every day, I would say that's really important. A practice of loving your body. So like wake up in the morning and I just put my hand on my heart, hand on my, abdomen and just send love to my body. The Ho'oponopono is a great way to do that, sending that forgiveness and love to your body. And that I think is a great way to start your day with the Ho'oponopono, love to your body, a gratitude, like open your eyes and what are you grateful for at that morning? A really great way to start your morning. Meditation. And some people kind of get stuck on the like, well, I have to close my eyes and I have to breathe and I have to stay here forever and I can't do it. And I don't think it has to be that way. So if you're someone who listens to music and it can get you out of your thinking brain and you can really start feeling the energy in your body, that's a form of meditation. If you like to go for walks in nature and just like be in awe of your environment, that's a meditation. Not to say sitting in the grass with your feet on the ground isn't great, because I do that. I love that. That was, how I would send the love to my body. But there's other ways. And so it's just really finding something that you enjoy to be able to kind of center yourself and kind of get out of your monkey mind, because that was really hard for me. My monkey mind was crazy. It was like all over the place. And so those are things that are really important. Again, like I mentioned, just turn off the news. Like, just don't even, like, let's not do that. The social media, whatever it is that's causing you to have hard emotions, that's just pulling you out. That's pulling you out of alignment. That's pulling you out of the highest frequency you can be in. And so kind of releasing yourself from some of that, that's really beneficial. And the forgiveness for yourself and others, I think forgiveness practices and just being able to say, I was doing the best I could at the time. They were doing the best they could at the time. That's really so important for being able to move forward and really finding things in your life that you enjoy. So spending time doing the silly things that you love to do when you were a kid, like play again. I know when I was going through my journey, I was like, what is play? What is joy? I don't even know what those
We
words mean
forget.
anymore.
Yep.
No, I haven't done that in so long. I had no idea. And really just kind of like, what did you love doing as a kid? What do you love doing now? Like, if you want to blast your music and dance around like a crazy person, like, that's me and I'm all over it, right? That's, just doing those things that make you laugh and being around people that make you laugh and you have fun. And that's really so important, because that is really the energy, the childlike energy, which is our most divine, lovely energy to be in a part of. So doing the things that you enjoy and spending time with the people you enjoy being around that are supportive and loving and kind to you, all of those types of things are really important.
Yeah, those are so good. All great. And all very tangible things we can start doing now. So that's perfect. I do have one more question that I want to ask you as we wrap up. And before I ask you that, can you let everybody know where they can find out more about you and the summit as well? I'd love for you to mention the summit so people can go get signed up for that.
Yeah, thank you. So they can find me at my website, which is healingwordswithramah.com. YouTube channel by the same, healingwordswithramah.com. Facebook, which is Ramah Leith, my spelling of my name, RAMAH Leith. And also the summit that's coming up, which you're a part of and I'm so excited for. That's coming up June 22nd through 26th of 2026, depending on when you hear this. And it's called the Health, Wealth, and Quantum Alignment Summit, moving the 3D body into the 5D flow. So that's very exciting. And the registration link is 3dbody5dflow.com.
Perfect. Of course, all that will be in the show notes. You can go check it out and sign up. Definitely sign up for the summit. It's going to be awesome. And there's a lot of really incredible speakers and presenters. So something really good for y'all to do this summer. So go grab that. And the last question I want to ask you that I like to ask everybody, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
Letting go of the programming, just letting go of all the programming and opening your mind up to all possibilities. I think that's the most important thing, because as soon as you can do that, you can see so many other options. Like I had a health background, public health background, so I'd always been interested in the health field and healing. But until I even knew that there was and believed and experienced, quantum healing, medical intuition, I had no idea that existed. And when I was able to open that up, it really tied into that was my purpose all along. But there wasn't, you don't go to college for this. There wasn't a method for learning this, years and years ago. So just opening yourself up to all possibilities and not seeing things that are out of your realm of knowledge as unavailable to you or too woo-woo or whatever, however you want to look at it, but that there are many ways that we can live a purpose-driven life that may not have looked like what you thought it did 10, 20, 30, 40, however old you are years ago when you went to school or when you were told what you could actually do as a woman at that time. So just being completely open and allowing the things that brought you joy as a young person to move you into what can bring you joy as you go on through your years.
Yeah, I love that. So good. Open your mind, open your perspective, people. I think that's a good words to leave on. So thank you, Ramah, for joining us today. And I'm super excited for the summit, for everybody to go check that out. And just thanks for sharing your story and all of your wisdom today.
Thank you. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you for having me.